Well, good evening and welcome District 4, and thank you to Pastor Doug for hosting us tonight at this beautiful church. We are very fortunate today to have the newly elected council member from District 4, Letitia Johnson, and as is our custom, we're going to allow the home council member to do an introduction, so please give a hand to Council Member Johnson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here, and Pastor Doug, thank you so much for allowing us to be here this evening. I have had the pleasure of working with the Department of Neighborhoods for the last 2 months, and really ecstatic to be able to get through addressing a number of issues, concerns that residents have had, and look forward to building upon that relationship and continuing to grow and come together in a partnership to make sure that we are serving District 4 residents as a unit. And so I thank you all so much for being here. I know that I get a number of questions, so really ecstatic to have the mayor here so you all can pose those questions to him, and we will make sure that we continue to follow up with you. But definitely glad to have you all here and look forward to continuing to serve all of you this evening and beyond. So thank you so much for being here in District 4.
All right. I was hoping you were going to answer the questions tonight. So as we have done at the start of these, you're going to get a chance to hear from one of the city department heads. I think people in this community have been very impressed with the talent of the department heads you've heard so far. In District 4, there are very few problems more urgent than issues with water. And in Jefferson Chalmers, you're worried about the water coming into the neighborhood from the Detroit River. You're worried about the sewage coming up in the basement, as you are in Morningside and East English Village and a number of other neighborhoods. And eventually, we need to replace all of the lead service lines that run from the street to your house. And while we are very fortunate in this city that our tests on water continue to come in very clean, if the lead service lines have been there 60, 70 years, over time, if they crack and they break, your water is vulnerable to impurities that are dangerous. And right now, the service lines are owned by the homeowners. They're under the lawn, they're yours. You know that. We are proposing to take them over at the city level and replace them with new lines that are not lead. These are massive undertakings, and we are extremely fortunate that we have a person who has now emerged as a national leader on water issues on the President's Advisory Council. So please welcome the head of the Detroit Water and Sewer Department, Gary Brown, who's going to tell you what we're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope I can live up to that introduction. Let me first just give you a high-level overview of how I look at the water system. I think the presentation will make a lot more sense if I do that. And so, first of all, we have this saying, it's one water. It's just one water. And what does that mean? It means it's one water, but there are two distinctly different systems. There's the water system and then there's the sewer system. And they never commingle. So at the Detroit River, we pull the water out of the river and it goes into the water treatment plant. And that's managed by the regional system, the Great Lakes Water Authority. And there's no lead at all anywhere at the water treatment system. So we pull the water out of the river, it's treated, and then it's pumped mostly northward towards the suburbs, but it's got to go through the city of Detroit. We send some of it over to Grosse Pointe, but mostly up north. And we use large transmission mains in order to move that water. And as it's moving through the neighborhoods, it branches off to the local system, to smaller pipes that feed neighborhoods. And if you have a fire hydrant on your side of the street, on your block, that's where the water main is. It's either up under the berm where the fire hydrant is, or it's in the street near the fire hydrant. That's where you can tell where the water main is. That's the local system. That's the system DWSD is in charge of. Then that water leaves that water main, and it goes to what the mayor was identifying as a service line, and that's your line. And that's the only point in which there may be lead other than inside your home. So we deliver it to you, pristine, quality, clean, it's great water. Then you use it. We cook with it, we bathe with it, we wash clothes, and then you give it back. And it goes into a totally different system, which is the sewer system. And it goes through a pipe that's under your basement floor, goes normally out your backyard, and it attaches to the local system, the sewer main. And then it leaves that sewer main and it goes to a larger pipe, which is controlled by the Great Lakes Water Authority, the regional system, and now it goes to a different plant, and I call it the wastewater treatment plant. They have a new fancy name for it now, the resource recovery something. It's a wastewater treatment plant where it's cleaned and actually put back into the river better than it came out, or cleaner than it came out. So it's one water with two different systems. What I want to talk about today is the basement backup protection program. And I want to give you just a high-level interview or view of how we got here. And as you know, in this neighborhood, everybody knows, back in June, we had a historical 1,000-year storm, and we flooded 32,000 homes. At least we got claims for 32,000 homes, and I'm sure that even more than that actually flooded. Over the last 2 years, we've had 2 presidential disaster declarations, and one of them was the June 2021 storm. The sewer system was built for 1.74 inches of rain per hour. Today's rainstorms are more intense and more frequent than when the system was built 100 years ago. There are 3 parts to building a more resilient sewer system. There's the regional system that I described earlier. There's the local system, which DWSD controls. And then there's the homeowner residential private property part of the system. If any of the 3 parts fail, it may result in basement backup. Today we're going to talk about the residential private property part of the equation, and we're calling it harden the target, and that's your basement. We're going to offer homeowners help to harden the target or your basement. Occupied single-family homes, 2-family flats, duplexes in 11 targeted neighborhoods with historical basement backups are eligible. Now, how did we determine the 11 neighborhoods? Well, we took a map of the city, and we put the neighborhoods on it. And then we overlaid all the claims that we got over the last 2 major storms. And then we looked into our billing system, and we found all the flooded basement claims that people had made at DWSD. We laid that onto a Detroit city map, and the areas that had the most claims, where the map was what we call the hottest, were the neighborhoods that got selected. The new basement backup protection program includes installing backwater valves on homeowners' sewer line. Phase 1, Victoria Park and Aviation District. We picked 1 neighborhood on the west side, 1 neighborhood on the east side. And it was very important to go slow enough to allow the plumbers to build a cadence to be able to build the staff, to get the equipment going, and for us to get the kinks out of the system before we opened it up to phase 2, which is neighborhoods with historical occurrences, as I described, of basement backups on DWSD service requests and claim data. And that part of the program will start in July and run through 2024. Up to $6,000 in services, customized based on individual need. That's very important. All of these homes were built at a different time period, and they were built differently. So we want to make sure that the homeowner has some say-so on how the work will be done. Homeowners will have a conversation with the plumber about the property, the menu of services, and the best option to reduce the backups. Some homeowners may want the backflow on the outside of the house in the backyard. Some will want it on the inside. You should be a part of that decision-making process with a licensed professional plumber. We're going to camera inspect the sewer lateral line. If that line is blocked, if it's severed, it's broken, or it's disconnected from the main, it could cause a backup. There's no sense in going through and putting this equipment in if the lateral sewer line is not fully functional. So we're going to camera it and make sure that it is. Disconnect downspouts and install extensions 3 feet from the house. Each one of those downspouts in a heavy rain is able to push 12 gallons a minute down to your foundation. Now, most houses in the city of Detroit have a minimum of 4 downspouts that go into a boot that goes all the way down to the basement foundation. So that's 48 gallons a minute. If you have 2 or 3 inches an hour, that's a tremendous amount of water that is going around the foundation of your basement and has the opportunity to come in at the foundation or at any cracks. We will also install the backwater valve, install a sump pump, or install both, a backwater valve or a sump pump. The city will pay at least 90% of the cost for owner-occupied homes, 80% for landlords. And so, if in fact you own the home and you live in it, and you have applied and you qualify to participate in the Water Residential Assistance Program, we will waive the 10% down payment, and the city will pay up to 100%, up to $6,000. If you own the home and you don't qualify for the Water Residential Assistance Program, then you'll be required to pay 10%. The city will pay 90%. If you are an owner and you don't live on the property, you're renting it to a tenant, then you will be required to pay 80%, or you'll be required to pay 20%, and the city will pay 80%. And you cannot have any of that waived because of the RAP program. Phase 1 should start in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And it's going to be the aviation subdivision. There are 425 houses expected to be eligible. And in Victoria Park, there are about 105 houses. And in Victoria Park, 25% of them have already installed the equipment themselves. And so right now, when I checked before I left the office, we had more than 1,300 residents that have already applied for the program. And if you go on the website, you'll be able to see the map and understand whether or not you are eligible to apply. Eligibility by neighborhood, phase 2, East Side, Cornerstone, East English Village, Jefferson Chalmers, Morningside, Maross Moraine. West Side, Barton McFarley, Chatsey Condon, Greenview, and Warrendale. And that should start summer of 2022 and end in 2024. It's what a backwater valve actually looks like. The one furthest on the left is actually under the basement floor. The one in the middle is finished, and the one to the right has the cover on top. The contractor will only restore the cement floor. Homeowner must maintain and clean the valve. Do not use sink, drains, washer, and dishwashers during rain events for backwater valve to block sewage from backing up. How the program works. DWSD will contract for the plumbing services directly. DWSD will not reimburse your contractor or plumber. Only cement will be restored in the basement. No flooring will be replaced. No reimbursement for previously installed backwater valves or sump pumps. The program will not repair, replace private sewer laterals. If you need your private sewer lateral repaired or replaced, do not apply until the work is complete. Make sure you get a permit. Program will not fix basement foundations, gaps, or cracks. Additional alternative power sources for sump pumps are at the homeowner's cost. Normally, a sump pump is working during a storm. If the storm knocks out the electricity, you'll either need a battery backup or a solar power backup. That will be on the homeowner to provide that. What is the process? Go to detroitmich.gov/basement protection for program information, eligible neighborhoods to apply. And please download the handbook. I know I saw Brian Peckinpah sitting around. He's responsible for creating that handbook. It has a lot of great tips on why basements flood, both during storms and in dry weather. So please take advantage of looking at the book. If eligible, application is online only. BC performs courtesy inspection to determine the conditions. A plumber will inspect the home and have a conversation with the homeowner. And that's very important, that you're involved in deciding the best course of action. At that point, a quote will be uploaded to DWSD, and the homeowner will receive a copy of the quote. Homeowners will then be given instructions on how to make a deposit, unless your income qualified through the RAP as a homeowner occupant, and then you just simply sign a waiver. The application's approved, Buildings and Safety issues a permit, the work is performed, Buildings and Safety does a final inspection to verify that the work was done correctly and also that the permit was issued. DWSD will then pay the contractor after verification of work is complete. So what if I'm a low income and own the home I live in? Give you a couple scenarios. If you live in a targeted neighborhood, you will be eligible. DWSD will verify you are enrolled in the RAP and waive the deposit. If not enrolled in RAP, please call Wayne Metro at 313-386-9727 to apply to receive benefits, including $25 a water bill monthly credit and up to 2 years lifetime if you're a senior, person with a disability, or veteran. Then you get the deposit waived. So apply. There's $15 million sitting in that fund right now for people just waiting to apply. After successful pre-inspection, DWSD assigns a plumber, will visit to determine the work to be performed, then discuss the estimate with you. You sign the waiver before the work begins. What if I'm a landlord and I own 3 rental houses in the city of Detroit? Example, I own 2 rental homes in Warrendale and 1 in Russell Woods. Landlord can only apply to the program for the houses in the targeted neighborhoods. In this case, the 2 houses in Warrendale. Once pre-inspection takes place and passes, the plumber is assigned by DWSD, will visit each home to determine the work to be performed under the program menu of services, then discuss with you the estimate. What if I'm a landlord and I own 3 rental houses in Detroit? You pay 20% of the cost for each eligible rental house based on the plumber's estimate. The landlords are not eligible for deposit waiver. Buildings and Safety will also register the landlord for the rental properties if not already registered. Landlord will sign a waiver for each house enrolled, and work will begin by the plumber. Apply now. As I indicated, we already have more than 1,300 applicants, and we'll put the web addresses on the screen, detroitmich.gov/basement protection. Anybody know those 2 gentlemen, Rodney Liggins and Dennis Perkins, your neighborhood managers? Can they stand up? Have we got any MPOs from number 5? This is, as everybody knows, the police department is kind of close to my heart. Any MPOs from number 5? What about number 9? There we go. There to protect and serve. All right. That concludes the report, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So we've got several neighborhoods in District 4. Victoria Park we're doing right now, and then as soon as we work through the bugs there and on Aviation Sub on the west side of Detroit, we are going to open this up for the rest of the east side neighborhoods. Last week, Michael Reagan, the head of the Environmental Protection Agency for President Biden, was here, and we went through some of these basements together. And you know, I explained to him different parts of the country are different, but in Michigan, we use our basements. We live in our basements. We can't have basements being flooded out on a random basis. The President's assistance has been a huge help in this. They paid $100 million in claims out from that flood last June, but they're also helping us with these basement hardenings. So we could either tear out 3,000 miles of storm sewer all across the city, or we can harden the basements that are affected, and this is the most cost-effective way. So we've got questions now for Gary Brown or any other city department. A lot of department heads are here. If you haven't seen this before, what we will do now is we'll take questions both from folks on site and folks over the internet. You'll get 60 seconds to ask your question. And if I don't know it, we've got most of the city department heads here to handle you. We'll switch back and forth. So if you're here, go up to one of the 2 microphones. Otherwise, we'll switch onto the phone. Start by telling us your name and where do you live. Go ahead. We got our first person. Welcome.
Hi, Dr. Janie Kaminsky. I'm in Morningside. I'm on the one side of Outer Drive. Mr. Brown, I'd like to know what your qualifications for your job is. I'm personally a professional emergency manager with the Michigan State Police and an international certified emergency manager. And one thing I saw last week when you were discussing the flooding with the EPA, a number of us in the area have, I personally, Valentine's Day has been my house 50 years, have asbestos-based flooring that was partially taken up. Is the city going to do anything about abatement for the flooring that we are now left with?
So let me start with a question. I'm not going to get into qualifications. Gary Brown was the chief operating officer for the city and has done an outstanding job for years for the Detroit Water Department. We're not getting into the personal stuff. Tell me about the asbestos. You're saying, did you put in a claim to FEMA? Did you get paid on the claim?
The flooring is not covered under a FEMA basement
Right. They respond.
subsidies, but
right, they respond
that
to
is an
emergency.
issue because it is asbestos. Almost our entire neighborhood has asbestos-based flooring.
And so I'm just going to tell you the truth, and you may not be happy with the answer, but the reality is that when you own a home, there are things that happen that you're responsible for. What FEMA does, it's an emergency response. It will clean the sewage to make it safe. It'll replace a furnace if you've lost it, a washer and dryer and you lost it, et cetera. Restoring the house beyond the emergency is the homeowner's responsibility. And so I'm assuming that FEMA paid the other part but did not pay that.
Flooring is not a covered benefit, and I actually have worked for FEMA.
Right.
Believe me, I am
Right.
well aware of what is
Yeah.
under the qualifications. I'm speaking for the other individuals that are not here
Right.
who want to know what has happened to the claim. Though most of us paid our own way to clean out our homes. I understand some of the funding went to low income. No one seems to know who it is, got their houses cleaned out, whereas the rest of us had to do it ourselves at our own expense.
Okay. Well, we can give the list of addresses, but we basically hired moving crews. We went into basements, hauled stuff out across the city, sent cleaning crews in behind. That was the immediate response the city did, and we did focus on low-income seniors, people who could not maybe afford to get a contractor themselves to do it. FEMA came in, provided the emergency funding, but when you get an extraordinary storm, there is a certain part of it that falls on the homeowner, and the tiles.
The homeowners were not involved in the fact that there was no power to some of the pumping stations and that there was no staff on site.
And so if you file the claim with the Great Lakes Water Authority relative to the pumping stations, that'll get resolved however it gets resolved. I don't have any control over what that claim is with the Great Lakes Water Authority.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's take somebody on the internet.
Ms. Turner-Handy. Ms. Turner-Handy, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
All right, tell us your name and where you live.
Sandra Turner Handy. I'm over in the Denby neighborhood in District 4. My question on the water issue is, again, this side of 94, one community over here was chosen as a part of this basement program. We have a lot of seniors over here that did not take advantage of the city coming in and cleaning out their basements, you know, because they don't know these people. And our seniors were not having people they didn't know in their homes. We brought in our own volunteers in the community that went in with a community leader, cleaned out these basements. They had to replace furnaces, hot water tanks, and they didn't file a claim. We paid our way over here to get our houses done, you know, and utilize volunteers, but we're not included when so many of us
10
suffered
seconds.
from the flood. Okay, so that said, my other thing is, first, I want to say thank you for the alley program. Great program. Cleaned it out. Our community is looking so much better.
Well, you've got a great neighborhood, and the whole city was certainly included in the FEMA response. And as I say, FEMA paid out $100 million to Detroit families on repair. But Gary, I guess the question is, the Denby neighborhood is not targeted for the basement hardening. Is there a reason for that? I think was the question.
It was just the data from the number of claims as well as from our own claims that people called the water department and gave us their address. You know, there's enough money in there for the 11 communities, and hopefully, if in fact we're successful, we'll be able to look under every rock we can to find additional dollars and possibly be able to extend it. But right now, it's the 11 communities involved in this program.
But was the Denby neighborhood hit?
It was hit, but not to the same level as the other communities that we chose.
So I'm going to take a look at the Denby data myself and see because Gary, I'm sure you've got that, and see if we can expand the program a little bit. because you have a great neighborhood that's got enormous potential. It's starting to come back right now. We're going to do everything we can to help you. Go ahead.
Ms. Turner-Handy, please accept your invitation to the breakout room.
Before you put me on a timer, I want to say hi to my pastor, Doug. And I want to say hi to you because my daughter, Jaden Broomfield, worked for you. So hi
Glad to
from
hear
her and our family. All right, now you can start the timer.
You're okay. Go ahead.
All right, first I want to thank you for being proactive about replacing the lead before the federal mandated timing. That's really beneficial to our neighborhoods. I have a few questions about,
What neighborhood do you live in?
I'm in, my name is Stacy Broomfield, and I'm a part of Cornerstone.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the first question is, I applied on the very first day, and I know it said first come, first serve, and they're first going to do the neighborhoods that, the first two that you mentioned, but how do I know that I'm on the list? And with this going on for a few years, how do I know my place with respect to the rest of the world?
So we're going to confirm that you're on the list, although I would have no reason to think you're not. Here's our problem. Nobody has tried this before.
Okay.
Hiring, and I've talked to enough people who tried to hire a plumber, put a back valve in, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't feel like I did the job right, et cetera. You might only hire a plumber to go into your basement once in your life. We decided we didn't want to make our residents have to do that. And so what the Detroit Water Department is doing is contracting, what, 8 plumbers? And we are going to have 8 plumbers where we're going to supervise them, inspect them, go through the work. These things may go 2 a day and we roll through the city. It may take 2 days to do one project. We're going to find out how this goes. We're going to get it moving as quickly as we can in these first 2 neighborhoods. Then when we know how much can these contractors do, how fast, and what's the quality of the work, because if 2 of these 8 are not doing a good job, we're not going to extend them to the next neighborhood. I don't want to have them all over the city. Once we're about 2 months into this, we're going to know how many good contractors we have and what their pace is, and then we're going to be able to get back to you and give you an estimate on where you are in the process and when you'll be. I can't tell you that until we get them in here in March and April and May, and we start to see how fast they're working. Does that make sense?
Only to an extent. My concern is that if I've applied and the computer said I applied, but I have no verification
We're
that I'm
going
on
to
the
get
list.
you that verification.
Okay.
But if the computer said you applied,
Yes.
I'm pretty confident of our systems, but we're going to double check and call you back and tell you you're on the list.
Well, I'm glad one of us is
Go ahead. So I interrupted your question, so go ahead. You have something else you want to ask?
Yes, I did. There was a problem with the street flooding, and I'm wondering how that's related to this, because if I'd rather my basement flood than the top level of my house.
So you got 2 different issues. So the street flooding basically means the water came faster than those storm drains could let it down. Now, if I could have the streets be a little bit higher and the basement's dry, I would choose that. And that's what we're trying to do with the back check valves, is to keep that sewage from backing up from the street down into the sewer and into your basement. And Gary, in Cornerstone, do we have a particular issue with the storm drains on the streets?
Yeah, can I speak to that? There were some black bags that they pulled out of the sewers that were extremely full, so can you please speak about that?
Yeah. In your neighborhood, we tried something different. We not only replaced and repaired sewers, but we also did water mains and we did lead service lines altogether. And so those were filters that were put over the drains until the project was complete. And when the project is complete, we will remove them. But if you give me or leave us with the address, we'll get it before you leave the meeting. We'll double check that those filters have been removed and they aren't still there.
Thank you.
All right. How often does your street back up?
We had the June 25th
Yeah, everybody's good, yeah.
incident, and then a week later, and then I think it was 2 weeks later, literally, it was the day that the Nike stores in downtown flooded. The people were in our basement and all of their equipment. along with a neighbor who was doing simultaneously having her basement cleaned, all of their equipment was flooded a third time. I'm also, it's flooded, every time there's been a major flood, it has flooded, including way back in, I think, 2001 when FEMA came through and put the sump pumps in. So I am a recipient of one of those FEMA sump pumps from back when, and I don't know how that will be impacted by what you just showed on the screen.
We are going to get to your neighborhood as fast as we can, because you got a very real issue.
Yes.
And we're going to get there as fast as we can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's take somebody from the internet. Tell us your name and where you live.
Next, we have LB Green. Ms. LB Green, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Please forgive me. It took me a minute to get to my unmute button. Can you hear me?
No worries. We hear you loud and clear.
God bless you. Thank you so much for being available to us. Okay, so most recently on January 30th, we had a backup, a sewer backup. And this was one of several that occurred over the past couple of years since 2019.
So where do you live?
On Andredon, 1 block north and east of Chrysler JNAP.
Okay. Do we have a problem?
Am I in any of the?
I don't know that we've had a lot of reports northeast of JNet, but go ahead. Tell us about your situation, because we're going to check it out.
Okay, well, one thing from 2019 through September of last year, we were told we owned a problem. We did not know
10 seconds.
we could file a claim. We did not know we could request an inspection. So we spent over about $7,000 of our own money getting lines snaked from the basement out, the yard dug up to get from out there into the basement. Claim filed in September, no word on that. But the work we did on our own got the lines cleared to the point that we were able to restore the heat that we have been without for 2 winters.
Please continue.
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
she helped us. We're on the RAP program now. We got a new water tank coming now.
Okay.
The thing is, we still have outstanding expenses from the January 30th episode. Should we file another claim with the water department, or does the city have other means that can help us get our money back quicker?
Okay.
Please.
Gary, what happened on January 30th?
Yeah, and I know that you said that you had this lateral sewer line snaked out, and that opened up the line and freed it up. Was that correct?
Yes, when we got
It's a private sewer line.
we got the line cleared.
Yeah. If we could get your name, we could get your information, we'll contact the plumber that you used and make sure that there's not another issue going on. We'll check our line, we'll check your line, and make sure that it is clear. I'm not quite sure of the connection between the heat and the plumbing
It flooded the
system.
furnace,
I see.
flooded out the furnace.
So,
And
okay.
the furnace became unsanitary. So we finally, my son finally bought a new control panel for the furnace and put it in himself. But that's a part of that claim that we filed in September. And so now with what happened in January, who do we go to?
So here's what's going to happen. They're going to call you tomorrow. There's no way you should have had basement backup on January 30th. So either there's still a problem with your lateral line, or there's a problem with the city sewer where your lateral line connects. One of those two things is happening. We're going to get somebody to contact you tomorrow. We're going to get to the bottom of the solution, because you should not be having sewer backups this time of year. So we're going to dig into it. We're going to get you an answer.
Ms. Green, please accept your invitation to the breakout room.
Go ahead. Good evening.
Hi, Mayor. How you doing?
Good.
And this goes to you and Mr. Brown also. And my name is Karen Patterson. I'm the Dickerson Block Club president. I have a question. When Mr. Brown was showing all that detail up on the screen, we had all these areas that you're starting, such as Jefferson Chalmers. We're sitting right there near Chrysler, okay? My boundaries is in Riverbend. My boundaries is from Mack to Jefferson, okay? So why is it not that Riverbend is not on that list with everybody else? Why are we always being pushed to the side and no one's looking at us?
You weren't pushed to the side. We did a map of who had basement flooding that FEMA came out and confirmed. And the areas that had the highest concentration, which tended to be the low-lying areas the water ran down to, was the areas we prioritized. So it was strictly based on the report of the basement flooding.
You know,
Nothing else.
Mayor, I get flooding in my basement. I gave up on FEMA a long time ago. When the flooding went through the entire city, was that 2011 or whatever that was?
2014.
Okay. I
Yeah.
had water up to here in my basement.
Right.
Okay, FEMA came in. The guy, for some reason, wanted to go upstairs in my house and take a look. He came in, and I got no help. So I gave up on FEMA. I don't want to even deal with FEMA. So I took care of my own. I have licensed plumbers in my family, so they took care of my problem. But my neighbor next door, her basement is flooding like crazy until her basement wall is like going towards my driveway. So we need help, and I just really feel like we're being pushed to the side.
So
But I understand what you just said, but we still feel like we're being pushed to the side.
Okay, so we need the address on the neighbor's house. So you can say you gave up on FEMA. I sat down with President Biden 2 days after the flood in Traverse City. He sent them in here in the fastest response they've ever done. Our residents got $100 million in checks. So a whole lot of folks who went to the trouble of filling out the paperwork got their emergency bills paid. Didn't cover everything, but dealt with the emergencies. But if you've got a neighbor who's got ongoing flooding issues,
And I do too.
okay, but we need to come out and see if it happened June 25th and 26th, that was a huge storm. If it's happening on other days, there's a problem in the lateral sewer line under your yard, or is it a problem in our storm sewer line in the alley? It's one of the two. So if you've got a neighbor who's got more frequent basement flooding, we really need the address, and we need to get out and check it out.
Now, my house is about almost 100 years old, and my neighbor's one is pretty much also. And the house to sit next to me is my mom's house, and hers is about that old. And so the system hasn't been done, and I know where the problem is sitting right at the alley.
So how often does your basement back up?
Mine doesn't back out as much because I bring someone in to one of my.
Okay, well, how often does your neighbors back up?
Whenever there's a storm. or
Okay, so
whatever's
there's a
going on.
problem in that sewer line of the storm
Yeah.
sewer. We need to get out there and figure out where that problem is, because that's got nothing to do with this program. That is a problem that's local to that house or that particular block, and we need to figure out where it
Yes.
is.
The only problem I have with this program is that why aren't Riverbend on there? That's my issue.
We're glad to show you
Yeah.
the data.
Okay.
But we didn't sit down and say, this is our favorite block club president. We just looked at where the claims came in and said, let's harden the basements in those areas first. And I'm going to go back and look at the Denby data to see why it didn't make the list. I'm sure it's going to show me it's not quite as intense as Morningside was, but still, I want to see, I want to make sure we protect everybody. We've got a lot of neighborhoods on this side that are coming back, and I want to make sure the basements are
By
protected.
the way, I'm not everybody's best block club president. I'm just joking. Anyway,
So if you, I want you to give Gary the address before
Yeah.
you go, and if we get this solved, you will be everybody's favorite block club president.
okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, and my house is also 100 years old.
I'm gonna, okay.
And the lateral sewer lines, the shelf life is about 30 years. And they've outlived, by 3 times, 90 years old. And so they're 1-foot pieces of clay crock that are pieced together.
Right.
And over 100 years, they've disintegrated. And so they need to be replaced.
Right.
And so I just want to remind everybody that in April, on April 1st, DWSD is going to roll out, in conjunction with another insurance company a warranty program. And for less than $8, $7.98 a month, you can get an insurance policy, a warranty problem for both your service line and your sewer line. And if it's blocked, they'll come out and clean it. If it breaks, they'll come out and repair it. If it needs to be replaced, they will replace it. And so look for that program April 1st. You have to be in it for 30 days, and then the policy is live. And again, most of our homes are more than 60 years old, and those sewer lines are just not functioning well enough to prevent basement backups.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's a warranty program that we'll be announcing to start in April. So you'll be able to buy it on your water bill. But, you know, it could be $4,000 or $5,000 to replace a water line, a service line if it breaks. I think I'm not an insurance salesman, but it's something people ought to consider. Go ahead. What do we got?
Next, we have Rhonda. Rhonda, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Rhonda Theus, and I live in the East Canfield Village neighborhood. And my question is, last year on July 28th, Mayor, you came and met with our neighborhood on Beneteau. Thank you so much for coming to our neighborhood. And one of the things that we did talk about was the devastation of the flooding, because the majority of the residents in our neighborhood experienced severe flooding from 4 to 6 feet of flooding in our basements. And one of the things we were told is that when the sump pump program started, you know, our community would be in the first to have those sump pumps, and it doesn't appear that our community
10
is
seconds.
in that group of
10 seconds.
neighborhoods. And one of the things I'm thinking, after Mr. Brown explained how they viewed the data, is the fact that in our neighborhood, you know, we have streets with a lot of vacant homes. So, you know, that could kind of, you know, when you have a more densely populated neighborhood, then, you know, the numbers are big.
So do you live on Beneteau? Yeah. You know what? We need to take a look at that, because as you know, I've spent a lot of time on that street. That we owe an awful lot to the neighbors on Beneteau. They went from having St. Jean Street in their backyard to the Jeep plant in their backyard. We've done a whole lot of work over there. I've spent a lot of time there, and we did make a commitment to them. So I'm going to go back and take a look. But Gary, we really kind of owe it to Beneteau to prioritize the folks that live along there. Also, Donald Rencher, our housing director, is here, and that abandoned apartment building on Beneteau, it is now his mission in life to get somebody in there and get that renovated and occupied. We're going to keep pouring effort into that neighborhood, but with the Jeep plant right there, we can fill up those apartments. So Donald, if you would get that to the top of your list too, and let's help the Beneteau families. Yes.
Ms. Rhonda, please accept your invitation to the information room. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. My name is Michael Hatchett. I'm from District 4. I live right down the street on Martin Street. I was calling, I was coming here to let you know that I was calling to say thank you, because I was able to reach out to Mr. Perkins. I had this abandoned house next to my house for like 8 years. I've been wrestling with raccoons, squirrels, possums, and illegal dumping. When I was able to get to him, he did due diligence, and he helped the house get tore down. He put me in connection with a young lady named LaWan.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
Yes, and she was constantly calling me up, letting me know what was going on with the property. They was able to get the property tore down and everything, and they also put me in touch with Land Bank, and I was able to secure the property.
So you bought the house next door?
Well,
Are the
yes.
raccoons still there?
No,
Okay.
they have nowhere to live now, so, you know what I'm saying? So
Glad
I
to
just
hear
wanted to come here and say thank you for your office.
So
and
what are
how-
you going to do with the side lot?
I'm just going to fence it in for right now to stop everybody from dumping next to my house.
Yeah.
But the only question I do have is, what can I do with that lot? Like, what's the zoning for that area?
I would say the first thing is don't pave it, because Gary will raise your drainage charge, okay? So you want to keep it grass or garden or the like, but really, as long as you're not starting a commercial business, you can put swing sets on there, you can put flowers on there, you can plant gardens on there, you can make it recreation space. What would you like to do with it?
Big yard for my daughter to play in.
Absolutely. Big yard for your daughter is exactly what it should be. So LaJuan counts, and she's taken over the demolition program. It has dramatically changed. She's just doing a great job. So I'm glad to hear you had a good experience with her.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I don't usually get somebody who's happy, so thank you for coming. Go ahead, let's talk to somebody on the internet.
Next, we have Zoom user. Zoom user, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Hi, I'm Loretta Yancey, and I live in District 4, the Chandler Park area. There's been nothing designated for my area, and we flooded too. Although I have never flooded ever, not to this degree in my home. Are we going to, and a lot of my neighbors too, and I know that there are a lot of vacant lots in my area as well. But when can we get some help in that area?
So I'm learning a lot as I'm listening here, and I need to look at the underlying data. So we targeted first the areas that had the most severe flooding as the first area. But what I'm hearing from neighbors here is we've got some areas that had some flooding that didn't make the cut, and I think we need to take a look at another phase. So let me look at the data. And we'll look at Chandler Park, we're going to look at Denby, we're going to look at some of these other, we're going to look at Riverbend. I want to see the data in those areas, and we'll take a look at whether we have another phase that reaches more of them. And your council member, Johnson, is here. I'm pretty sure she's going to be advocating for that as well. Yes, go ahead. Okay,
Zoom user, you
go
may
ahead.
accept your invitation to the breakout room.
Okay, tell us your name and where you live.
Hello, my name is Marvin Clark. I live on White Hill off of Whittier in the Denby area. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Perkins. I didn't even know about this. He came back and he let me know. I want to say I was in Minnesota for like 20 years, but I lived in a reservation. We as in the Detroiter, we can do things as one. We can do it. People will help us, but to help us, they have to know exactly what's going on, and it's a process. You know, a process comes step by step. As long as we do them steps, it will get to a higher degree. But I would like to ask my cousin, I speak on his behalf, on my behalf. Now, if he have a home, but when his mom passed, my auntie, she ended up getting a mortgage. He paying off the mortgage. Would be considered still as his home,
Yes.
where he can qualify for everything?
If he's got title to it, yes.
Okay.
A lot of people have a mortgage. So if the title is in his name, he would qualify for it, yes.
Okay, and as the data, when you do these neighborhoods, do you ever search the houses that maybe those who couldn't even get out there to know about what's going on? How would they be affected to know?
I was out on blocks. We were out on blocks. You remember the days afterwards, we hired garbage trucks from all over. We'd go down a block from the stuff that came out of the basement, haul it away, and you come back the next day and you didn't know anybody had been there. We came down over and over. We got pretty good data on where the flooding is. I am sure when I look at it, I'm going to find there was really intense flooding in Morningside, East English Village, Cornerstone, and probably less intense flooding in Denby, and they made a cut. I'm guessing that's what I'm going to see when I see the data, and we're going to take a look at whether to create another phase. Gary, is that what I'm going to see? He says that's what I'm going to see.
All right, thank you. I have a great day.
All right, thank you. And your point about, what folks can do, I've said this over and over. You go across this city, and you see the neighborhoods that are coming back the fastest. They aren't necessarily the neighborhoods with the nicest houses. They're the neighborhoods with the strongest neighborhood associations and block clubs. All across the city, the ones that have active groups, they're getting their alleys cleared out. They're coming back. I look at what's happening in Morningside and East English Village now. I think about 6 or 7 years ago. It's amazing. And I would just say leadership in block clubs and neighborhood associations makes a huge difference. It's a lot easier for us to help you. I met your council member when she was vice president of her neighborhood association, and first time I met her was selling abandoned houses to people. Yes.
Next caller we have is T. Harrell. T. Harrell, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Yes, thank you, Taylor Harrell. Thank you for putting me back into the queue too after I got knocked out. But yes, my name is Taylor Harrell. I am a District 4 resident, and I live in Cornerstone, just in the East Warren and Casual corridor. And I know, Mr. Mayor, you said at the beginning of this presentation that you guys did hire a cleaning crew, but a lot of us did not qualify for that cleaning crew if we did not hit a certain income bracket, and a lot of also had water and sewage rider on our backup on our insurance, and that still wasn't enough to cover the damage. I personally had 58 inches of sewage in my basement on June 25th, and then it happened again a week later, and then 3 weeks later. And so whatever insurance that I did pay out, half payout, was capped in like just the cleanup, and the demolition was put up to like $25,000. And so now my question is, how do we know that when you all hired the people to put the backup
10
valve,
seconds.
that we are getting a fair rate, and we are getting a fair rate? And then when we pay the deposit, what is the timeline for the work to be solidified? We see that a lot of work in the city isn't often completed in a time-sensitive manner.
So first question is, once you pay it, you won't have to pay anything else. So if the initial estimate is $4,000, you'll pay $400. The city pays everything else. If we don't manage the project properly, it's not on you, it's on us. You will be engaged with the plumber. BSEED will come out and inspect and certify that the job was done correctly. If you're dissatisfied, we will make them fix it, and we are not paying them until the work is done and inspected properly. So we feel like this is the right way to approach it. And is it going to take them 6 weeks or is it going to take them 3 months? I don't know yet. We've never tried this. But by April or May, I'm going to be able to give you a good idea at how fast these contractors can move. I'm pleased with the fact we found 6 contractors from the city of Detroit out of the 8. But they've got to staff up. They're going to do more work than they've ever done in their lives. And we're going to find out how quickly they move and how professionally they operate, which is why we're doing the 2 demonstration areas. All right, go ahead. Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming. Ricardo White, Morningside. My question is about financial resources. So we know that these neighborhoods are the first neighborhoods that we've identified, and that there's a finite number of dollars toward this program. What happens after that? Are there some state leaders who could step in and give some money toward the department to...
Again, this is a hard thing to say, but when you're a homeowner, there are expenses that hit you as a homeowner. And we're trying to take the worst of those expenses off of you, but nobody's saying to you, you're not going to have any expenses for any emergency that comes up. So we're trying to take the worst of it off the people least able to pay it. But beyond that, it's going to be hard. People are just going to have to pitch in.
Right. Well, I guess my question was more towards the program. Once this program, the basement program, runs out of funds, what replaces those funds? Or is there a plan to do that? Could the state assist?
I have a master spreadsheet of every federal and state appropriation that's out there, and we're in the middle of all of them. There is significant appropriations proposed at the state of Michigan for water resources that could help on both the basement side and replacing the lead service lines. And I'm hoping the state legislature acts. I spent my afternoon in Lansing today lobbying, but I can't promise you something that isn't here yet. I can tell you there's a reason the EPA administrator is here. We have ties all the way to the federal government, very close ties to state government. We're going to go keep, lobbying for funds to keep going. But right now, we've got $15 million. That's enough to last us the next year or so. We'll find a source of funds to keep going after that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Next, we have T. Black. T. Black, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute and 1 minute to ask your question.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. This is Tammy Black from the Jefferson Charmers community.
Good evening.
I just want to tell you you're doing an awesome job. And also, Letitia, you hit the ground running, my sister. You're doing a great job also. And Mr. Brown, the way you explained everything was awesome. You know, it kind of put perspective into how the water works and how fast you guys came up with this backflow prevention, and also the implementation of doing the first two communities first to see how the plumbers are and make sure that it's done properly. We really appreciate that because we've been through a lot of floods. Right now, my living room, my dining room, outside on my porch, everything is a storage now. So I'm looking forward to this. And I also want to thank our district manager, one of our district managers, Mr. Perkins.
10
He's
seconds.
always there when I call. So I just want to let you guys know you're doing an awesome job. And I truly appreciate you guys.
All right. So it sounds like Dennis Perkins is going to pull a coup and take the district manager's job. All right, let's go to the internet.
Next person we have is Butler. Ms. Butler, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Hello?
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. I'm in the Chandler Park neighborhood, and from the summer flooding, I am about 1 mile from Connors, where the water flows through the Connor Creek flows through the I-94, where the cars were floating on the freeway. I relocated out of my house in August. I have a collapsed sewer line, and I would like to get on that list so that I could get in this program, please.
Okay, so we need to get out and see, when you say have a collapsed sewer line, we need to find out if it is the city line in the alley or it's your line under your property. So if you will give us your address, we will get somebody out, we'll figure out where it is, and we'll come up with a plan for how we address it.
Ms. Butler, please accept your invitation to the breakout
Go
room.
ahead. I didn't mean to miss you over on this side. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Good evening, Mayor. My name is Natalia Henderson, and I am in the Cornerstone neighborhood. I have a few questions. I filed a request to have my basin cleaned back in August because I have some standing water. And of course, when it was hot outside, it was just standing water that was growing algae, and now it's frozen water where I can have a little ice rink. And so I wanted to know what was the timeline. I've continually followed up on this, and it's been...
You're saying there's water still in your basement?
No, on the street.
On the street, there's water. On what street?
On Kingsville.
The street itself has got standing water, so it's not going down the storm drain.
It's not going down.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so Gary has promised he's going to send a Vector truck tomorrow, pull up that storm drain, and suck that out of here. So you stand by and watch it. Gary, you know where this is? Okay, why don't you talk to Gary, make sure he knows exactly which storm drain it is. He's going to get it tomorrow.
Okay, I'll make sure.
Go ahead.
The second part of my question is, how proactively are the basins being cleaned when there's not an emergency?
Go ahead. He can tell you all about all the Vector trucks we bought.
Yeah, the drains, there are 90,000 of them citywide, and we rotate through the districts at least twice a year to get them cleaned out. But, and we thank any resident that takes the time to clean the leaves and the other debris from the ones that are in front of their house. It's very helpful. Well, we have 12 now, and I have 3 from contractors that we can utilize also. So
when I started, we had no Vector trucks capable of going into storm drains. So it rained at all in this city. Everybody's streets were backed up. So we're getting there, but we're going to pay special attention to yours.
Okay.
What else? Go ahead.
My final question is, once this water has been sitting, and like we're experiencing with a lot of our potholes, it creates, these craters in the ground, or it's continually cracking either our sidewalks or our streets. So what do we do following getting the basins cleaned out where the water is going down, and then what do we do about the street?
So Gary's best friend is Ron Brundage, the DPW director. And if Gary created the problem, I'm sure he will get Ron to come out and help him fix it. All right?
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go to the internet.
Next, we have Ms. Hasty. Ms. Hasty, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Hello, thank you for taking my question. So my name is Dr. Nina Hasty. My parents have been in the city of Detroit going on 50, well, more than that, but they have owned their home on East Lawn off Channel Park Drive for 50 years. So I have a statement. Every time it rains, it can rain for a minute. It looks like an Olympic swimming pool in front of our home. And that's been happening since probably I was 12 and I'm almost 50. So that's the first thing that I would like to say.
So let me see if I follow you. The water is not going down the storm drains on your street.
No, it is not.
So
And my
tell
mother
me
had
again the street name and where it is.
East Lawn off of Chandler Park Drive.
Okay, so let's make sure Gary's solving another basin problem, but Tricia, would you make sure he knows and we can go get those basins? We'll go get those basins this week. Okay, go ahead. What else? She sounded like she had more problems on her mind than that.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
So before my father passed in October 2019, he owned a business, Harper Upholstery, in the city of Detroit on Harper for 48 years. I have taken over that business. This is our 52nd year in the city of Detroit. I contacted the land bank
10 seconds.
Right before Thanksgiving. There's a piece of land adjacent to our building that we have been maintaining for 30 plus years. They said it would be 15 days. I have not heard back from anyone.
Is Tammy here? Okay, so everybody knows that Lawan Counts has completely turned around the demolition program in this town. I'm going to introduce you to Tammy Daniels, who has promised that she is going to turn around the land bank service. You're going to get a chance to prove yourself here, Tammy. Would you talk to this citizen and let's see if we can't follow up?
So you have a lot you're interested in purchasing, ma'am?
Yes, I did contact someone from the city. They contacted me quickly via email, let me know that the city did own it and how I would go about purchasing the property that's adjacent to ours. Like I said, it's just a piece of land.
So let me ask you a question now. This is going to sound technical, but it's important. Did the email come from the city planning department or did it come from the land bank?
No, it came from the city planning department.
Oh, okay. So this isn't even Tammy's fault. All right. So the planning department handles commercial streets. So is this lot facing on Harper?
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to be the city. So Donald, would you help this business owner after 52 years buy the lot next door?
Yeah, absolutely. If we can get your name and phone number, I'll give you a call tomorrow for sure, and we'll get it done very quickly.
Okay. And the last thing that
You'll hear from Donald Rencher tomorrow. Go ahead.
Okay. And I'm sorry, the last thing is I know that you're dedicated to building up the businesses in the city of Detroit and not just downtown. So I would like to know whom I can speak with in your department because I would like to build an upholstery trade school. We have a building adjacent to ours and this land that I'm trying to secure to build a trade school, an upholstery trade school. So I would like to know who I can speak with in your department.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the call. If we could connect offline. So I'm Nicole Sherrard Freeman, and I lead economic development and Detroit at Work for the city. And so we're interested in people who want to start trade schools, and upholstery is of particular interest to us because we'd love to have an apparel district. So how about we connect offline? Can't make any promises, don't know what's possible, but I'd love to talk to you to see what we could figure out.
So if you leave us the contact information, and Nicole will call you tomorrow.
Yes. Ms. Hasty, please accept your invitation to the breakout room.
All right. Go ahead. Good evening.
Hi, Mayor. I thank Dennis Perkins. He's my new friend now.
You guys are hurting Rod's feelings. That's all I got to say. But go ahead.
I called him today about my basement. It's flooded. Dirt is coming up.
It's flooded today?
Yes.
Okay.
And FEMA had gave me the money for a furnace, but when I went down there, my basement was flooded.
So it sounds like you've got a sewer line problem behind your house. So again, we gotta get your address and come out and find out what is causing that, because, okay, you got it? So we'll come out and check, and there's no reason anybody should have basement flooding right now, so
Okay.
something's going on your property.
Okay, and also, who can I contact about trees?
What would you like to have done on trees?
Cut them all down.
Okay, so, is the tree between the sidewalk and the street?
No, the trees that I'm speaking about is in my backyard and on the side of my house. And you guys.
It's your tree.
No, because it's an old fence up there, and if you look at it, the trees are on that lot, on the other lot.
The trees on your neighbor's lot, is anybody living there?
No,
Is there something about the tree that's in imminent danger?
yes, it's all around the wires.
Okay, so Brad, will you follow up tomorrow? If it's around the wires, DTE will take it down. If it's in danger of falling over, Brad will deal with it. But Brad Dick's going to get your information. We'll come out and take a look tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, who's on the internet?
Next caller we have is Cookie. Cookie, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Hello, this is Cookie Moore from Cornerstone Village.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor. I'm glad that you're here. I just want to say a couple things. I want to say a shout out to Dennis Perkins. He is awesome. Every time I email him or text him or whatever, he responds, and he responds quickly. So hallelujah for that. I also want to do a shout out for Councilman Johnson too. She's awesome as well. I have a question. Oh, no, it's not a question. I want to also say I'm happy to hear about the water program, protection program. My basement got flooded as well, and I'm so glad that Cornerstone Village is in one of the areas to get done. So thank you again. And also one more pet
10
peeve.
seconds. 10 seconds.
Everyone is shouting Cornerstone. It's Cornerstone Village.
Cornerstone
so
Village.
Thank you so much.
All right, we got the full name, and you got a great neighbor. And all I got to say is Dennis gets one more thing. If people were calling in and praising Phil Martelli, Jawan Howard would be really bad. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. The reason I'm here is not a complaint. It's just to thank you. I work for the last 6 years. I have 4 different crews here in Detroit. We do the complete rehab. That's why the paint in my jacket. We work 7 days a week, but then on the side, I also do the properties from Land Bank. And I'm pretty aware on how the compliance takes place. So I've done quite a few. I got all my family to purchase properties from Land Bank. We've done about 13 properties from Land Bank.
You're my hero. Where are your 13 properties?
I live here in Detroit. I moved from Florida about
But are they
7 years
concentrated
ago.
in a particular
They are-
neighborhood?
I love East Side.
Okay.
But my sister, she's on the West Side. She's by Livernois and McNichols, and I'm here by Bedford and Otter Drive. So the last 3 years, I've been purchasing properties also after I do the rehab with the 4 different crews of people that I work with, investors. I do mine on the side. But this time, I had an issue with, I understand and I read the contracts with Land Bank at all times, the water issue. We always change the main drains. We always change the undergrounds. We make sure that the tenants that are going to be taking over, it's no electric work to be done or no plumbing or duct work, which is the majority. And of course, all the houses get to be demolished and everything gets to be done, windows change and everything. So this house was ready to be rented. I don't take more than 2 months in a single, not more than 3 months on a duplex.
You're going to tell me something went wrong on one of these.
The water.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
So I just got stuck with the house, so the house was left in order for me to have it in compliance. I couldn't have it in compliance because of the water issue,
What was the issue?
the sewer line.
The sewer
So I
line
did an
needed to be,
underground-
it needed to be replaced?
Yes, well, what happened is probably an investor purchased the other block, and because this house that I purchased, it was under the demolition list, so I did a video underground, and it was said many times that it collapsed. It was never collapsed. It was cut, and it was never reconnected.
And we didn't, did we not tell you it was cut in our documents?
No,
If
but,
we didn't tell you it was cut when you bought it, we will replace it.
but you have already taken care of that.
Oh, good.
So
what do
I
you-
am here
so-
just to thank you for that.
Oh, you're telling me we got it right. All right. Thank you.
Just
God,
for that.
Tammy is so happy over there right
Yes,
now.
and especially, I just want to say, she is the district deputy for District 1, Kaya Robertson.
Yes.
Who always gets back
Right.
to me right away. And also, I am really bad at names, but I have the names of the persons, Rod Liggins.
Oh, there you go. Where's Rod?
And Dennis Perkins and
Yeah.
Mr. Gary Watkins from the Water Department and Mr. Peckin.
So are you going to keep buying houses?
Yes.
And how are your property values?
Honestly, what I wish I could do is buy houses from land bank so I could turn them over to my investors without having to do the compliance. I'll just make sure that they're not going to be boarded and well taken care of.
Okay, well, you can't get them from the land bank if you don't bring them into compliance.
I know, but
okay.
I can't sell them if they're under compliance. If my deed is blocked, it's really
All
difficult
right,
to
well, I want
sell.
you to keep going because you're doing terrific. And how are your property values?
Incredible. I love Detroit.
Good.
I
I'm
just
glad
love
it's working
Detroit.
out for
I
you.
work 7 days a week.
The people who came in and bought houses and fixed them up when everybody else was leaving are doing really well, and you deserve it. So thank you for what you've done.
No, thank you for helping me also.
All right. All right, so Tammy, you did it right. All right, that's good. Okay, somebody on the internet.
Yes, next we have Ms. Jenkins. Ms. Jenkins, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question. Ms. Jenkins.
Ms. Jenkins, are you with us?
No, I didn't ask the question, sorry.
Okay. Who's next?
Next we have William B. You may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question. William B.
Hello,
Good evening.
can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Hi, Mayor. This is Bill Barledge, President for East English Village.
Oh, man, you're lazy. You didn't come out of the house tonight.
No, I'm still recovering from surgery.
Oh, all right.
So-
Well, that's a good reason. How you feeling?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone there, yourself, all the directors, Councilman Johnson. We're doing well with all the teamwork what we've got established downtown and are in the district itself. One topic that's a problem, I think, overall for the city, but also for us, is trash. It's not the trash pickup, it's the compliance in terms of when bulk goes out, when cans are put back into the proper place. It continues to be a problem across the city that I've seen.
10
But for
seconds.
East English Village, we're trying to make sure that we're maintaining a clean neighborhood and streets that are clean. But we've had an issue with education again.
Time.
So, Bill, I mean, you know what we can do. We'll have DPW come out and put the warning signs on and fine people $50 if they violate again. Is that what you want us to do? Did we lose Bill?
More of a global education process for the city, just not us.
Okay.
Because it's never about the ticket or the fine, it's about the educational part.
Yeah.
Like, we'll do a calendar, we put it in our newsletter, we put it on our Facebook page. But it's a global problem, I think, from the standpoint of some residents feel they have their own trash day.
Yeah.
And
So
we're all working too hard to let that happen.
all I got to tell you is, and I leave it on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis, but what the neighborhood leadership wants us to do, we'll come out and do it. I've been back in neighborhoods where people are pissed off at having paid $50, but they don't put it out on the wrong day again. So if you want us to do that in your area, we will do it, and people will, they only pay $50 once. So so talk to Rod and Dennis, and if you want us to do that level of enforcement, we will.
Mr. Barledge, please accept your invitation to the breakout room.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Monica Pace, and I am representing the New Beginnings CDC, which is in the Marosse and the Moraine area. I would like to, first of all, give a shout out to Councilwoman Letitia Johnson and also Dennis Perkins. We are trying to find out if we expect any improvements in our Marosse Boulevard when you start doing the repairs for the drainage.
Marosse is a county road, so I guess we would need to ask the county executive that question. Dio, do you know what the county's doing on Marosse?
No, it's not on there. 2-year lease, but we're working with them to make sure that we prioritize some of their roads. So something.
Who's the county commissioner over here? Is that Tim Colleen? Yes. Yeah, so it may be worth a phone call to your commissioner.
Okay, so we should try to just get in contact with him so we can find out, because that is always, you know, the muddy, drainy all the time, and we're wondering, since they're doing repairs around it and so close near there in that area, would that help it also?
Yeah. And why don't you mention it to the county as well? Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it? All right, thank you. All right, who's on the internet?
Caller with the number ending in 569, 569. You may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question. 569.
Hello.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, my concern, I'm Dolores King. I'm behind Miller Junior High School in Park East condos. My concern is I sent in all the information requested by Detroit Water Board. I never heard from them. So what I did in the last week or so, I sent a certified letter to Gary Brown with pictures and everything. I have a large closet in the basement. The water has all the closet doors warped. I have to get new closet door. The water also knocked out the motor to my furnace. I was without heat.
10 seconds.
Also, I had bought a cocktail table. It was so full of mold, they had to throw it out.
So did you
Well, I
file?
can't-
Did you file a FEMA claim?
I filed with FEMA, but FEMA turned me down. So I put in an appeal.
Why
So
did
I'm waiting to hear from the appeal.
Why did FEMA turn
They
you
did
down?
not say, I cannot recall why they turned me down, but
Okay.
I have to look at the letter. But I was turned down, so they told me I had to put in an appeal. So I'm waiting to hear from FEMA. But my question to you is, if this happened in the city, and to me this is city business, why can't the city handle this problem? And why not, at least Gary should have written and said, well, we're working on it. I didn't hear anything. Anything. I didn't hear nothing.
So we're going to
From no one.
find out where it is, but I just want to give you an honest assessment. The knocking out of the furnace is an emergency response. So I'm really curious as to why FEMA would have turned you down. But coffee tables and closets would not qualify as an emergency response, which is, I'm sure, going to be the answer to that. But we're going to take your information now and get back to you. I want to see if we can help you on that FEMA appeal. Is your furnace working today? Did we lose her? Did we get an address?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is your furnace working today?
Is my what?
Is your furnace working today?
The furnace is working today, but I also received mold in my basement. So I had to pay for mold remediation. So
Okay.
what I'm saying, why can't I get funds from the city?
Well, you are entitled to file a claim, but we got a storm that came from the heavens, and I know this is a hard thing to say, government doesn't fix every single problem. And so what the response is designed to do is for emergencies. Make sure your furnace is on, make sure your washer and dryer are working, make sure the sewage is out of the basement. Losses beyond that, for the most part, are not emergency response losses. So we're going to take a look at your particular situation, but from what you're telling me, other than the furnace response, it's what I would expect. But I want to see what happened on the FEMA appeal. So if you give us your address, we're going to follow up on that and see if there's something we can do to help there.
Caller, please accept your invitation to the breakout room. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Richardson, and I'm not here to complain about anything. I just wanted to thank you. Thank you because I worked for the county for a long time, and I was down there. One day I had a situation. You assisted me. I appreciate it. Also would like to thank Dennis Perkins also. I constantly call this man. I know I'm getting on his nerve, but he's always very professional and make sure that he handles things.
You're not on his nerves tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Okay. This is something I've not experienced before, but we're learning something here. Go ahead.
Next, we have Dwayne. Dwayne, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Yes, good evening.
Good
Mr.
evening.
Mayor. My name is Dwayne, and I reside in District 5, and I had an issue once before, and I had this issue for quite some time, but you helped me with it, and I want to say I appreciate you for helping me with it. However, I do have a complaint today. I have a godmother who stays in District 4, and on her block, she have a house sits on the corner of her block that someone has abandoned cars that they're repairing, and they're blocking the view of you entering onto Dickerson. And I'm wondering if someone can look into that matter.
We
to,
sure
see
can.
what's going-
If you give us her address offline, we'll get the police to get out there tomorrow and take a look at it. All right, so will you give us that number?
Caller, please accept your invitation to the breakout room.
Okay. Who's next?
Next, we have N. Jordan. N. Jordan, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. My name is Nicole, and I stay in District 2. I was wondering about the house insurance issue that we have going on in the area where a lot of homes cannot be insured. I did go through the same issue with FEMA and the flooding that took place over here in June. And I was wondering, is it something that the city can launch with a lot of these insurance companies to have more affordable rates for the residents here in the city of Detroit?
So what neighborhood are you in?
I stay in a Fitzgerald neighborhood, but I stay on the other side of Puritan.
Okay.
So I stay more towards Fecal.
Yeah.
I don't stay on the 6 Mile side. So I stay on the other side where
You're on the other side.
I'm
You're
down
south of
different-
Puritan.
Yes, I stay on that side of Puritan.
I'm familiar with your neighborhood, and we're getting there on progress.
Please.
But the fire department has dramatically upgraded their service, and homeowners' insurance rates have been reduced in this city because the fire department was upgraded 3 levels. But depending on what neighborhood you're in, it can be really expensive. I don't know.
It is for me.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a lot I can do for you other than encourage you to shop around. But we've got some neighborhoods here where it's still really tough, and I wish I had a better answer for you than that.
Ms. Jordan, please accept your invitation to the breakout room. Next caller we have is Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Chris Johnson with Bagley Community Council, District 2, the president, and also I work for the Honorable Irma Clark Coleman as her liaison.
Wait, what happened to the last president of Bagley?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Well, wasn't there was a woman who was president before you?
Oh, yeah, she's gone.
She's
But
gone.
We'll talk about that another time.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. Well, congratulations on your elevation. Go ahead.
Thank you. But I'm calling because on behalf of a person that's in District 4, They have a house that was slated to be torn down and it never got done. And actually, your manager over here, Kim Tanny, has been helping me. I'm just curious, and maybe I need to talk to Mr. Perkins about the house. I was told that the
10 seconds.
survey
10 seconds.
didn't get done properly or something. But the house has been slated to be torn down for 10 years now.
So Kim has access to the same database as Dennis Perkins. Kim, have you looked this up? Hang on.
So, Mr. Johnson, we know we had just talked about this, but they worked on the survey. They had a survey problem, and it's going to be torn down within the next couple of months. They had to redo the survey. Yep.
Okay. So there are times we go into houses and we make sure we take down every house in a way that's environmentally safe. We go through and make sure the extent of the asbestos that has to be removed, it's removed. Then we inspect it to make sure it's been removed so no asbestos is released in the air during demolition. Sometimes they come in and say the survey didn't catch it all and we have to go back. I'm guessing that's Kim says that's exactly what happened. So they're being doubly careful to make sure no asbestos is released during the demolition, but it looks like they've worked it out. And Kim's saying it'll be done in the next 2 months.
Next caller we have is Ms. Hale. Ms. Hale, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question. Ms. Hale.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
And Councilman Johnson. This is Mrs. Hale over on Beneteau.
How are you?
I'm okay. The reason I'm calling is when it rains, both ends of our street floods between Canfield and Mack and Canfield and Warren.
Okay.
And it sits there for a couple of days after the rain is gone.
It's
And
still,
then we also
it's still doing that? We've cleaned out those storm drains before. Is that still doing that on Beneteau, Gary?
It's still doing it. It
Okay.
did the last week. Yes.
Okay, hang on. So usually when I drive down there and see it, I call Gary myself. So he's going to tell you what he's doing about this.
Okay.
Hang on 1 second.
And
He's going to give you an answer here.
Well, certainly,
Okay.
certainly, Mr. Mayor, the last time you called me, I took care of it and thought it had stayed taken care of, but we will certainly get some crews out there and take a look at the drains.
All right. I check your street at least once a week, but I missed this last one, so we're going to get back out there.
Ms. Hale, please accept your invitation to the breakout room.
I think she may have had something else on her mind.
Okay.
Hang on. Was that the only thing she wanted to talk about?
Ms. Hale, you may unmute yourself.
Did you have something else you wanted to ask about?
Yes.
You sounded like
I
you were
was
getting warmed up.
calling
Go ahead.
I was calling concerning us not being on the list
Yeah,
of the flood waters, and we're still flooding.
yeah. We're putting Beneteau on the list.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Who's next?
Ms. Hale, please accept your invitation to the breakout room. Next caller we have is Ms. T. Hawthorne. Ms. T. Hawthorne, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Good evening. I stay on Lee May between Canfield and Mack, and I was calling about the sub pumps too, because we have problems over here. I have two questions. That's one. Are we going to be along with Beneteau getting sub pumps in our basements too?
So we're going to look at the data, and we're going to look at adding more phases. So I need to see the data to see.
Ms. Hawthorne, please accept your invitation to the breakout room. Next caller we have is D. Carl. D. Carl, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Okay, we can't hear you. Okay, I don't know if you're not speaking into the phone, but it's not coming through.
Mr. Carl, we'll come back to you. Next caller we have is Turner Handy. Ms. Turner Handy, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I got cut off. I didn't get my full minute. I wanted to tell you, thank you so much for the alley program. It looks beautiful over here. They came through and cleaned the alleys on a few of the blocks. And I love it, but I just need my gates on the end of the alley so they don't come in and dump.
What street are they?
Flanders off of Hayes and Queens.
So if your neighborhood group asked for gates on the alleys, we'll put them in. Brad's putting down your street right now, but any place where the neighbors ask for the gates, we put them in.
Okay, awesome. And the last thing is, the only reason we're giving so much praise to Dennis is because he's been here longer, so everybody know him. Rod is new, but we still love you, Rod.
Okay, all right. Are you related to Rod?
No, you know I'm not, Mr. Mayor.
All right, all right. Thank you very much. We're going to come out and check these alley gates. Who's next?
Mr. Carl, once again, you may unmute yourself. You have 1 minute to ask your question. Mr. Carl.
Okay, this isn't going to work.
Mr. Carl, just accept your invitation to the breakout room. And that is the last caller of the night.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And Monday night, we are going to do this in District 5. And you're going to get a chance to hear from Donald Renscher, who oversees the planning, the housing, all of the housing you see built around this city and the huge progress we've made on building affordable housing. He's going to tell you all about that and our plans going forward. So thank you very much and have a good evening.